going on, everybody? Welcome back to Knives of the Round Table. My name is Marco, and today we have our first head-to-head battle of this channel. I decided to start with the Chris Reeve Sebenza versus the Chris Reeve Inkosi, and my goal with these is to try and decide a winner between the two knives that I'm comparing in my versus battles, and I will always declare a winner. I will reserve the right to declare ties in specific categories, and we'll go over the categories here in a second. But I will declare a winner at the end, and my goal is to try and do some comparisons between two knives in the same way that I try, in the same things that I wanted to learn when I was choosing a knife. You know, if at some point I wanted to get into Chris Reeve knives and I was deciding between these two knives, and I wish that somebody had made this video. I think there's a couple comparing the two, but I wanted to do kind of an updated version of the video. So what are we going to judge them on? So this is what we're gonna be talking about. We're gonna be talking about the materials in these. We're gonna be talking about the action, the ergonomics, fit and finish, cutting, aesthetics, and value. Okay, and I'm gonna declare which knife wins in each one of those categories. But first, let me introduce you the contestants, if you will. On the one side, we have the legendary Sebenza. Okay, in this case, this is the Sebenza 31. Okay, one way to tell them apart from the 21s is usually the 31s do not have a hole in this area right here, and also the clip is canted to the side where it touches the where it does not touch the lock bar. The Sebenza 31 is probably one of the iconic knives in the knife world, and there's a bunch of different options. Now, for the sake of comparison, I'm not gonna compare this specific version of the knife versus this specific version of the knife. And the reason I'm not gonna do that is because, you know, I'm gonna assume that both are in their plain titanium configurations. These are obviously, because if I compare weight of these two, this one's carbon fiber, obviously this is gonna win. If I compare these two aesthetics, obviously this one is a unique graphic, this one's gonna win. So it's because there's so many variants of the knives, I'm gonna assume that they're both the plain titanium version of the knife, which looks like that. So the Sebenza is one of the legendary designs in the knife world, and what you have is you can have a drop point in single blade, which is kind of a sheep's foot, and a tanto blade. And there's a whole bunch of different handles, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Please note that the pocket clip is aftermarket. It comes with a bent clip very similar to this. Okay. It has a blade thickness of, I wrote it here somewhere, 120 thousandths, and that's kind of what you have. It's a titanium frame lock, and the Inkosi is very similar. It has a kind of a different handle shape. It has a little bit of a thicker blade at 140 thousandths of an inch, and one of the key differences here is that this is kind of a more heavy-duty knife. It has a much larger stop pin. If I show you like this, you can see that the stop pin is much more robust, and the washers inside of here, the Sebenza has more of a traditional washer. The Inkosi has a huge washer. In fact, hopefully you can tell inside of here, right there, you can see it, how big it is. In fact, they've had to cut a portion of it out on the lock side so that it doesn't interfere with the lock bar. So this is kind of what we have. We have these two Knives, like I said, there's more similarities here than there are differences. So it's gonna be difficult to establish a winner. But let's go through it and see what we have. So the first category we're gonna talk about is materials, and the materials on this. They both carry this specific version. They both carry as 35 VN blades, and the new version they both carry as 45 VN blades. They both carry the same titanium frame locks. They both carry they carry basically the same build configuration. So in all honesty, it has to be a tie because the materials are identical in both knives. So we're gonna put these to the side, and we're gonna declare that the materials are a tie. Okay. Now, let's talk action. So action is very similar, and Chris Reeve knives are not known for having great actions. They're more of a of a slow rollout type of knife. They're not running on bearings. They're running on phosphor bronze washers, so they're not known for great actions. But out of the two actions, because the Inkosi has much larger washers, and the washers have these large pockets where grease or oil can kind of it's kind of like a mini reservoir. In my opinion, the action of the Inkosi is just a tad bit better. It's not huge. It's not hugely different by any stretch of the imagination. The results, the differences are very minimal, but it's still a little bit better for the Inkosi. So the Inkosi gets a win as far as the action goes. Next, we're going to talk ergonomics. So the ergonomics on the Inkosi has these contoured handles that kind of guide your hand to where it wants to be. It has this jumping. It fits your hand. It fits a hand very, very well. The Sebenza has more of a neutral handle. It has a tiniest bit of a groove here, but for the rest of the knife, it's a fairly neutral handle. It's comfortable, and it can be held in a variety of grips. But usually ergonomics, I judge them in the primary use configuration. It is much more comfortable to use, or knives are kind of meant to be used this way. While you can use them in other positions, and it's nice sometimes to have a neutral handle, I believe that the ergonomics, at least in my hand, the one for the Inkosi is better. I want to make a clarification here, though. This is the large version of the knives. There's small versions of each of these. There's a small Inkosi and a small Sebenza. And if I were doing this battle for the smaller ones, I would choose the Sebenza, and the reason for that is that the grooves on the small Inkosi are too small. The finger grooves on the small Inkosi are too small for my hand. They don't fit well. My fingers kind of, I put one finger in the first groove, and it's kind of in the middle of the spike here. So just know that if I ever do a battle between the small Inkosi and the small Sebenza, the ergonomics on the Inkosi are worse than the ergonomics on the Sebenza for the small version of the knife. But for these, the ergonomics on the Inkosi are better than the ergonomics on the Sebenza. Fit and finish. Well, as you might imagine, two knives that are they're very close in price point. Okay, the base version of these are close to $400, and they're both made by the same company. So the fit and finish on both of these are identical. They at the same price point, made by the same people with the same attention to detail. The fit and finish is going to be a tie. Now, cutting performance. So both of these knives You can find both of these in a drop point and in single sheep's foot or a tanto blade. And I think that Chris Reeve tantos are some of the best tantos in the world. They just look amazing. I have my unums on is in a tanto blade. So I'm not comparing whether the in single blade or the drop point blade is better. If I were to compare the drop point blade with versus the drop point blade, and I've had both, and I've had both in single blades too, the Sebenza is a better cutter. And the reason for that is that it is slightly thinner behind the edge, because the Sebenza is 120 thousandths behind 120 thousandths for the thickness of the blade, and the Inkosi is 140 thousandths. So this one has a thicker blade, so this one can come to a finer edge. So cutting is going to go to the Sebenza. The Sebenza wins in this one, and it's by virtue of having a thinner blade. Obviously, it's a better slicer. Now, because the Inkosi was made to be a little bit of a harder use knife, you could make the argument that this one is used for harder tasks. But for EDC type of tasks, then I think the Sebenza is a winner. Now, aesthetics is kind of a difficult one, but I'm gonna give the win to the Sebenza, and the reason for that is the Inkosi. You can find it in plain titanium, like I said. It looks like that. Okay, just the show side would look like this. You can find it. There's obviously the carbon fiber, which is a knife art exclusive. Okay, and you can find it in black and natural micarta. It has like two stripes of inlays. Now for the Sebenza, you can find obviously the plain titanium. You can find the micarta, and I like the micarta. It has kind of a large patch of micarta inlay in both black and tan micarta. But you can also find wood inlays on the Sebenza. They have like 3 different woods, and then you have these. They have the unique graphics. This is one of the unique graphics, and then they have their computer generated graphics, which is like when you have like you see a rhino or a night sky or lunar landing, and they have all kinds of computer generated graphics. So, and then not only that, you also have Damas steel blades that you can get for the Sebenza. So if aesthetics is what you're going for, chances are you're gonna find you have more options in the Sebenza, and there are prettier, more distinctive versions in the Sebenza than you have in the Inkosi. The Inkosi is kind of more of a harder use, so you don't have a lot of the Damas steel, of the wood inlays, because obviously a wood inlay is not as tough as your titanium or your micarta, and obviously when you have this kind of finish, this is very easily scratched. Okay, so this is not a hard use. So by virtue of what they're made for, the Sebenza is a winner in the aesthetic category. Okay, so now we get to value, and it's hard to decide which one is a better value, but I'm gonna give the value win to the Inkosi, and the reason for that is that on the plain versions of these two knives, okay, the plain versions of these two, you get larger washers, a more robust blade, and a more robust stop pin with better ergonomics. So again, I'm comparing the base versions of these, and the base versions are very similar in price. So I believe that you get while it's a little bit of a better cutter, the Sebenza is, because it's 120,000 versus 140,000. I still think the value is on the side of the Inkosi. Not by much. I mean, these are the same price they have. You know, if we look at the table, you know, they're tight in materials. You know, there's 2 wins for the Inkosi, there's 2 wins for the Sebenza, but I think value wise, I think the Inkosi is a better value. Okay. When I did my Chris Reeve, brand overview, and I'm gonna link it here towards the end. I recommended the Inkosi for somebody that wanted to dip their toes into the Chris Reeve lineup, and kind of this is why, right? Now, it's hard to recommend against the Sebenza, right? Because it's an iconic knife. How do you go against an icon? But you know, in my personal preference, and when I go through what you get, then I do think that the Inkosi is the better knife. I really do. And you know, because you can get the same blades in both. This one's slightly thicker, but I think it's a little bit more robust. So I think this is the better knife. Now, if you're drawn to some of these graphics or some of the computer graphics or the wood, then you have to be in the Sebenza camp, because you won't be able to find it on the Inkosi. But as far as our versus battle, we are going to declare the winner of the battle as the Inkosi. Again, I think they both have, you know, kind of a recap. I think they both have kind of the same materials, okay? Titanium frame locks with S35 VM blades. The new ones both have S45 VM blades, okay? The action is a tad bit better on the Inkosi. And again, the differences here are incremental, okay? They're tiny. I think the biggest difference is in ergonomics. I do think that the ergonomics are markedly better on the Inkosi. Again, the fit and finish is the same. The cutting is a tad bit better on the Sebenza. Aesthetics, because of the options that you can get on the Sebenza, is going to be the winner. But I think the value by a tiny bit. Again, this is tiny bits. Okay, I'm gonna declare the Inkosi the winner of our first ever battle in the Knives of the Round Table, a joust, if you will. Guys, hopefully this has been helpful. We, at the end, we are always going to declare a winner, and in this case, the Inkosi is going to be the winner of the first one. Guys, I hope that you've enjoyed it. If you did, then like and subscribe. Do not get notified. Nobody wants to get more emails. And until I see you at the next one, take care.